Good morning. Good morning, friends. Today, I'm afraid you're have to be regaled by myself. This is my time within bookshops and secondhand bookshops and other things such as that. But I will start with by saying that I've always had a great love for books. And since I was 4 years old, when I was taught to read, I've always had books around me in the ways. If you were to look in my bag, which I take around with me, there's always a book in there. It's nearly an affliction of mine, but there you go. Anyway, I would like to start with which is going to be a rather amusing ramble through this time. But to start with something which I read, which made me most amused. And it's a bloke or no, a customer who comes into a bookshop and customer, hi, I'd like to return this book, please. Certainly. Do you have a receipt? Yes, here it is. You brought this book in Waterstones. Yes, we're not Waterstones. But you're a bookshop. Yes, but we're not Waterstones. We're all part of the same chain. No, we're an independent bookshop. Ah, put it this way. Would you buy clothes at H&M, then take them back to Zara? Wouldn't you? Well, no, that's because they're different shops. Exactly. Customer. I want to speak to your manager. And that to me says a lot about people who go to bookshops and think, well, you're all the same, really, your books, which I think is a sad reflection, because to me, and to at least a few, I know many of you here would have a great love for books and know them as good friends rather than through your lives, type of thing like this. But some people buy books and they buy them as investments. He says, creating a horrible face. And but yes, have them as investments if you like, but that's a whole other thing. To me, books are things which I take immense enjoyment in and can lose maybe 2 or 3 hours in. And in sometimes when I was a bit younger, whole afternoons. But that is another thing. But as investments, they go up and down according with taste and sometimes history and all these types of things. That you get books now, you get books which are covered in leather, and that sort of thing goes up and down. I can tell you from the books I know, which from secondhand bookshops, from Oxfam bookshops, and all this lot. It depends on ages. Some people like books with leather, some people don't, and some people like books because they got nice pictures in them. As books and other things like that, And I had a book which I was pricing up, and it was a Roald Dahl book. I'd opened it and looked inside about the condition of it, and inside it was a bit of paper which said, "Dear Sophie, I hope you like this book. It's my newest. Love, Dad." And so that bit of paper was worth more than the book itself, that Sophie, who is now a top class model, This was when she was a lot younger, and she'd been given that by Dad, and in that respect. But books are another thing which, to me, it says a lot about it, the way what people buy in that sense, because you can't. I cannot stand in a shop and start policing people and say you can't read this book or you can't read that book or you shouldn't be allowed to read these and we're not going to stock these books, because people read different things. People read different things politically, and I have my to do better. Right.
And another one.
So sugar puffs. My thing says that I am unstable, but there's not a lot I can do about that, I'm afraid. I hope hopefully it will sort itself out.
Okay.
But getting back to me, what I was saying, in that sense, that you can't actually police people to things. So you have to sometimes have.
I'll let myself out. Okay, see you later.
Okay. Yeah.
Take care.
Hattie, can you mute?
I've muted her.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Ray, can you continue? Have you frozen again? Tis the season for technical issues, obviously. Ray, we've got a lovely picture of you on the screen, but it's not a moving picture. All right.
Bank holiday weekend, a possibility of connection.
So we'll have to amend the title of the talk to, books and breakups or something like that.
Books and glitches.
Hey, we love you. We want you to stay with us.
I know. If this continues, I will try and come in on another, because we have this flats kind of internet via Brunel Care type of thing. So if this continues to keep being unstable, I shall go out and try and contact on that to see if that's any better. But getting back to what I was saying, and the Kremlin, I said people were sometimes nasty, so they're trying to cut me off. Censorship, I tell you. But anyway, we don't keep books nowadays by people who have, which I not persuaded, but the manager of the bookshop says we shouldn't have this. Things like about, would say gollywogs and things like that. You can understand why we don't keep those. But we had a discussion once on a book which was donated, which was Mein Kampf. And do you sell that book? It's a lot of people have read it and all that type of thing, and I was in two minds about this until I read something from history type of thing from that. Apparently, in the books after she died, Marlene Dietrich had a book of Mein Kampf in her collection. But that book was quite different because it was given to her by Erich Marie Remarque. And if you recognize the name, he wrote All Quiet on the Western Front. And he presented her with this book to explain to her how horrible Germany was at that time. So it was a book of significance to her to say that this is horrible, and this is life in Germany at that time. So that was that type of thing. But you know, customers have given me a lot of joy in the past, you know, and a couple of joyful ones was when someone came in and said, "Do you have any more books written by Jane Eyre?" And I had to think of that one for a moment. No, because that's a character, you know, that type of thing, you know. What the surprising was that what was it? Yeah, did Anne Frank write any more books? You know, you go, no, sadly she didn't. No, that type of thing. And a woman who came in, and I was standing upstairs because it's 2 floors and upstairs, and she looked at me. She said, "My son is climbing on the book racks. He won't hurt himself, will he?" Yeah. Oh, come on. it's a bit, and one of which you might find amusing or you might find not amusing. But I was presented, someone gave me a Harry Potter book, which I just cut off the shelves, and they said, "Has it got strange stuff in it?" And I said, "Well, this Harry Potter is a bit strange." She said, "No, strange. And I mean gay people." And you go, if that's your idea of strange, and madam, you know, I'm afraid we will have to go back to another way. And someone who said, "Have you got the book called 1986?" And I said, "I'm absolutely certain it's 1984. And he said, no, it's 1986, because I remember it, because that's the date of my birthday. So I know it was that book." But there you are. It was an amusing time for all of us in that respect. But donating books, people donate enormous amounts. And they think in some cases that it's looked horrible to me, but but someone might like it. No, and no, basically because, you know, if the spine is falling off, you know, if it's a few pages are missing, if there's someone written inside it, you know, it is not going to be the sort of thing which we can actually sell in the bookshops. So donated about 25% over the 100. Yeah, you do it. Unless you're a very good donator, like a Mr. CD who's fallen asleep. So there. It's sorry about that. I couldn't resist it, Christopher.
Sorry, Ray. Did you say a percentage of donations aren't any good? Is that what you're talking about now?
Some of them, yeah. People sometimes don't. Sometimes have a difference between what can be sold and what will be sold. As I said, we have books, you know, the spine is gone, or they've been written in, or something like that. People think, well, you can still sell it. But no, you can't really. Another slightly amusing story was of a chap who said, I like these books. He said, but someone has written their name in this one. And I said, yes, that's the author. He signed it. Well, I don't want it if someone's written in it. And he gave it back to me. And I thought, oh, well, you win some, you lose some in that respect, you know. But hey, the yeah, we had a man who used to donate to us. He used to donate at least 5 boxes at a time, and his name was Mr. Murchison. And these books were the exception that proves the rule type of thing, you know, in the fact that all his books, every one of his books, was beautiful. And the CDs which he used to donate as well of classical music was really, really, really good. And we was amazed, you know, that how often he used to donate. At least once a month, this man would donate books to us, and they were wonderful books. And last month, his wife came in to say that sadly her husband had died, and she had 5 lockups full of books, and did we want them? And it was, yes, amazingly, because these boxes started to pour into the shop. She got a white van which was full of boxes of books in beautiful condition.
Wow.
CDs in beautiful condition as well. And the shop which I volunteer at in Queen's Road, from Queen's Road, couldn't take them all. We didn't have the space. So it was me being Mr. Grumpy, because they had to be shared out with the other Oxfam bookshops in Bristol, which there are 2 of. There's one in Clifton, in Cotton, and there's one in Clifton in Princess Victoria Street. And so they had to have some of this wonderful source as well, which made me very sad. Because I couldn't, you know, I spent days doing the boxes that we got, which were quite remarkable. But it's a rarity that you get such beauty, you know, such largesse, you know, and they went very well, and the books that went out went quite as well. You know. Back to that. There was a lady who came into the shop, and she said, I would like to speak to someone who knows what they're talking about. So I thought, it's a bit patronizing to start with. But as the other volunteers who were there, who pointed to me straight away, go and speak to him. Oh, says I, yes, madam, what can I do for you? She said, my husband collects books. It's a bookshop. And it's his birthday soon. Right. I want a nice book for him. What have you got? I went like that. Yes. Where do I go from here? And so I thought a few probing questions could be good, you know. What does he collect? I don't know. What are the books? The books on his bookshelves, what are they about? If you looked at them, why would I? But his birthday, and you want me to give a book, you know. And in the end, I went over to what was our first editions signed books and all those type of things, and plucked out a few and said, this one. And she said, What do you think? And I didn't want her to come back and say, you sold me the wrong type of book. You know? So I got a few books out and pointed them out and pointed that this one is a new one. This one is a nice one. This one is expensive. And that seemed to catch her mind. That expensive means it must be good, therefore. So she paid, I think, about £35 for it and took it away. And I never heard from her again, which pleased me greatly, because I thought, we don't want that type of thing in here. But there you go. But something amusing now, something which has a little tag story to it, which I think you'll find amusing, is that I was pricing books out on the shop floor, upstairs on the shop floor, pricing away merrily. And this bloke come up and bent himself down to me and he said, have you got any of them books? And I thought, this could be awkward. So I said, and what books would Sir be interested in? You know, them books, wink, wink. And I said, wow, sir, I said, across over there, just beside you, there's a book which the manager has titled as erotica. So he went there and had a look and couldn't find anything that he was looking for and said, you sure that's all you got? And I said, yeah, so we don't get donated very many of them. So these are the best I can offer you. And he said, okay, and wandered off. And so afterwards, I said to one of my colleagues who was there, I told him this story and he giggled at it. And so the next time when I was involved with a customer saying you could have this book, that book is very good for that type of thing, Kevin wandered up and whispered into my ear, have you got any of them books? And so I was trying hard not to laugh. And he said, and he wandered off giggling. So it became a game between us of him having a customer who he's chatting with and me going up behind him and whispering in his ear. And it was great. It was great fun. But unfortunately, he got a job as a teacher in Leeds and went off. So the game finished. But it was something which gave us all great joy. Yeah. There was the shop puts books online because if they are very expensive or esoteric or something, you're not going to come in the shop and say, have you got a book on eye disease in the Congo River? You know, so you would have those particularly online, you know, old books online as well. And one of them we put online, and it was a big, thick tome. And so we put on it, you know, we can't post it outside of Europe because the post would be an enormous amount. So I posted on that. And I picked up a phone call when the manager wasn't there. And it said, there's a bloke speaking from Canada. And he said, I'd like this book. And I said, well, unfortunately, sir, it's, you know, the price we don't. And he said, don't worry, I will pay the postage. And I said, are you sure? You know, because it is rather a lot of money. And so he said, yes. And it was worked out after a few phone calls and chats on the internet. Yes, he would pay the postage. So that was ended up that he brought the book and paid the postage, and it was 120 quid. You go, wow, some people have got lots of money. So it's posted to Canada, and that was kind of an interesting thing, because the internet is becoming such a big thing. People are buying stuff from it and on it and that type of thing, but you still get the occasional customer came into the bookshop. Oh, must have been a couple of weeks ago, and said to me, "Have you got any new books?" And I said, "It depends, sir, what you mean by new books. We have got a lot of books which are published in 2022 and 2023, so they would be classed as new books. But as this is a second-hand bookshop, they are not new in the sense that, like Waterstones and stuff like that." He said, "You mean some people other people have handled them?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, I don't expletive want them then," and left the shop. Thank you very much. Someone came in, a lady, and said, "You know those famous 5 books?" And I said, "Yes, they're quite popular, and she wrote quite a lot of stuff and that type of thing." And he said, "They're all written very old, aren't they?" I said, "Well, she did write them around the 1950s, 60s, early 60s type of thing." And he said, "Have you got any modern ones like that? Because they're so boring." I said, "Well, I'm afraid, one, sir, they were written for children. And two, no, nobody has written stuff like that anymore at the moment. There's much more, there's books written about children now, but they are in the modern line, and I can show you those if you like." And he said, "No, don't bother. I'll have to buy my children something else then." And that was it. But you think, Also, woman come in and said, "Have you got anything more written by A. Mill? Because the Winnie the Pooh was lovely. Has he written anything else?" And I said, "Well, not yet." And I thought she was going to smile, but I'm afraid she didn't get the reference, and said, "Okay, I'll come back later then." There you go. Oh dear. And also, do you remember when Pride and Prejudice was on television? A couple of things on that. One, a lady came in and asked for a book. She said, "I think the book is called Pride and Produce. Is it a cookbook?" And I honestly, this is true. You might think he's making that up, but no, she actually said this, because someone had told her that this was a cookbook type of thing, and I thought, your friends are being naughty to you. So there you go. But the other Pride and Prejudice one was that I was wandering around Waterstones, which is my wont occasionally, and that's just come up on the telly. It just finished on the telly, and so Waterstones produced a lot of books of that series, that author Jane Austen, of course, and 2 women came in of middle age, I would say, and saw this display, and one turns to the other and said, "Oh, look, they've made it into a book now." I had to move away because oh dear, type of thing. But and I've told this, I cannot associate to the veracity of this. This is true, but I was told this, and I said, "You're just winding me up now, aren't you?" Apparently, a woman came back with a book and said, "I want to give this. I want to return this book." And the person behind the counter said, "Oh, why is that?" There's a children's book, and the children's book was "Where's Wally?" And she said, "My daughter has found him." No, as I say, I can't erase the veracity of that, but I thought it did make me giggle. The other one was a little girl came up to me and said, "I've just read a book." And I said, "That's super, you know. Did you like it?" "Not really." And I said, "Oh, what was it?" She said, "It's called What Katie Did." And I said, "Oh, yes, that's quite a well-known book." And all that's like, she said, "It's very silly." As my name's Katie, and I never did anything like that. I thought that's just delightful, you know, in that sense of, you know, how dare they, type of thing, you know. But and there you go. In the top floor of the Oxfam bookshop where I work, there's a few cupboards, and a cupboard for storing in and that type of thing, you know. And one little child came in and said, "If I go through there, can I get to Narnia?" And I said, "I don't think so." And the child said, "Yes, we have a cupboard like that at home, and I can't do that either." And her small brother, who was with her, a bigger brother who was with her at the time, said, "Dad said that's because Mum brought the cupboards at IKEA." which I absolutely love. You know, it's the kind of thing which you do. One does enjoy doing that type of thing. Yeah, right. 4, 3, 4, 5. There's one bloke who said, who came in and looked at me quite clearly and said, "I'd like to talk to you about God." And I thought, this could be awkward. So I did the usual standpoint, which the manager used as well, and said, "I'm afraid we don't discuss religion in here." It is. We don't discuss religion in here. And the bloke said, "Are you trying to tell me you don't believe God exists?" And I thought, where do I go from here? You know, do I start as a Quaker? Do I start discussing with him theology and, you know, and how we believe in all this lot? And I said, maybe if I had the time and the to do these type of things, and it was outside the shop, I would be happy to discourse with you on theology. And he said, and he had a grumpy look and asked me where the religious books was, and I pointed to a big shelf which had all different types of religion on them. And he went over there and looked at that. And I sat back, and that made me think about a few people who have been going to religious things and then came back and wanted to speak to me about them. And some of them were okay, and some of them weren't. But the things which I used to have were a little strange, like the woman who would come in, and if she didn't like the sort of book that was on the shelf, would try and hide it behind the other books. So, you know, because she was nearly the arbiter of what people should be able to read in religion and that type of thing, you know, which I found, which I used to have to go afterwards and take them out and put it back in the shelf. And another same woman would bring in a bag. In the bag, she'd have lots of religious tracts, which she used to pick up the books and slot her little tract inside there, so that people could discover God, as she said. And I thought, not the sort of thing. So I used to have to go occasionally and flick through the books to find out if she'd left anything there and take them out and dispose of them quietly. But that was the interesting thing, was that, you know, people would do kind of things like that, you know, and yeah. So that would go on. And if you remember, I've lost my place, so I have to find it again. Yes, here we go, Mr. Sean. This is from a book by Sean Byney, and it was called Diaries of a Bookseller. And it's one of the books which I found very, very funny. And one part in it which I shall read to you, and then after I've read this, perhaps we could have a sort of comments on your views on books and things like this. Thursday, the 4th of March. The shop has a regular visitor who goes by the name of William, or Agnes, depending on what takes his or her fancy when he or she wakes up. As usual, she turned up with a bag of books to sell. William, or Agnes, is an octogenarian, transgender man-woman from Irvine, who drives a Reliant Robin. I'm not sure from which gender into which he or she is transiting, hence the he or she things here. She has massive hooped earrings on, which are quite exciting about the books she's bought, which are always rubbish. So I give them £4 for them. And he'll spend most of the time complaining about the complexities of the benefit system, ending up with a rant. I'm a very busy woman. And then he goes on to talk about book towns. And if any of you know Hay and Wye, which has so many bookshops there, it's quite amazing. And he set up one in a place in Scotland called Wigtown, which is, as I said, in Scotland. Wigtown's Booktown project was launched in 1998. Although it initially met with skepticism by many locals, it has changed the place for the better. and the town, in line with its motto, is flourishing once again. When I moved back here from Bristol in 2021, I recall reading a letter which they complained about the bookshops and the fact you can't buy a pair of socks in this town, blaming on the bookshelf, book town, which was quite a travesty. That resentment is all gone now, and it takes a brave person to argue the Booktown project hasn't improved the town immensely. It's not even possible to buy socks in a nearby market town of Newton Stewart these days. That woman must be incandescent with rage at the moment. And that's it. That's my little troll through the highways and byways of the book type of place. But there are some things which obviously aren't taken by bookshops these days, and one of them is the dreaded of dreads is Reader's Digest condensed books. You cannot give those away. I had a big stack of them just near the door with a big sign on it that said free for anybody who wishes to take them away. And they never moved. None of them. I suggested they might be good for fire bricks, but I was told that would produce more argument than anything else. You know, the burning books is, you know, one of these. So I hastily didn't do that anymore. You know, but you know, it's some, as I said, some books are. You just can't do anything with those type of books. But one thing, because I now do what is type of thing, I show other people how to price books, how to recognize when a book is old and a book is, you know, because a book is old doesn't mean it's valuable. You know, a book which is in its 26th edition is maybe old, but it's still not worth a lot of money. It still won't earn its shelf space, you know. And so it is that type of thing, and that it's knowing a little bit about it type of thing, but also putting books out, putting books on shelves. You know, you just can't shove books on shelves, say where people look for them. You know, they have to be put on in the right way. And if you walk along, if someone walks along a shelf of books and they're all spying out, other thing like that, they just walk past them. So all you have to do is split them up, put one out with a face forward. So then people walk along there and stop and look at the one that's face forward, and then look at the books better. It's nearly a psychological thing of doing that type of thing, you know. And you know, which is one of the things I found, you know, and don't overprice your books, because the reason the books are there in Oxfam is to sell the book. The book might be one of your dear books and you think it's worth a lot of money, but sometimes, you know, Oxfam is there to make money, not as a antiquarian bookshop, which will only sell you the books and can spend hours and hours explaining these books to you. But it's the last comment before I finish this ramblings. I was with another colleague, and she was putting out books, and someone came up and said, "Where is your mystery section?" And Sheila pointed to over there, and the customer turned around and said, "As mystery section, shouldn't they be hard to find?" We both like that enormously, so I thought I'd just add that in at the end. So, dear friends, that is my presentation to you all. I hope it's been amusing and thought-provoking and thinking, whatever is that twit talking about? And I shall be most pleased.
Oh, thank you very much, Ray. That was great. It was really, really interesting and heartwarming as well. Thank you. I've sort of taken your chair to give you a bit of a break, but I think Golden's got a question. It's the way behind you. There's a book. Behind your right, left. I know it's one shoulder. It looked to me as if your hand was up. I'm so sorry. Right, okay. So someone else then, please.
Mary.
Mary.
Ray, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Ray, I found my father-in-law's book, which was leather bound, published in 1742.
Wow.
The family don't want it, and I can't be bothered to go around professional booksellers. Is that the kind of thing you could take?
Yeah. Yes, very, yes.
Okay, I'll work out how to get it to you. It's illustrated as Euclid's geometry.
Oh.
Very much, Mary. Wow. That sounds like it could be and my thing is going up again. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Jolly good, because it just said flash up as unstable again, and I thought that's talking about me, isn't it?
Okay,
Anyway.
good. I'll try and get it to you somehow.
Right. Oh, do you have an Oxfam book in your bookshop in your area?
Do I have a second-hand bookshop?
An Oxfam bookshop?
No.
Ah, right.
No.
Right.
Okay.
Very lovely. It's obviously a rich source of wonderful stories, very entertaining. And when you got to Mein Kampf, I sort of thought guiltily, because on my shelf I have my copy of Mein Kampf, which I inherited from my mother. And I thought I must put a note in there in case anybody ever picks it up, because when I looked in it, there were underlinings in it of some of the really nastiest passages, and I thought, my God, my mother was a closet bloody Nazi. What's this all about? And I brought it up with my sister, and she said, "Oh, that's from when I wrote an essay about Nazism at school."
Oh, right.
And I thought, I must put a note in here, right? And I'm opening it up, and I'm finding there's already a note. And it says, "In case you should ever find Das Buch on my shelves and wonder if I was a closet Nazi, fear not. This was my mother's copy, brought as a lessons. Annotations are my sister Barbara's, working on a project. Heil Hitler, David S." But on the same topic, a couple of nights ago, I saw a little program, and it was talking about books being banned from schools in Florida. And it showed what was happening with the library and what was being thrown out. And there were more books being thrown out than there were in the library. The big pallets of books being thrown out. So, this isn't history to be learned a lesson from. Yeah. This is stuff that's happening now that we haven't learned a lesson from.
I think if I could comment further, when I lived in America, there was always book banning somewhere, particularly in areas very influenced by the various evangelical Christian sects. But there was an intolerance of the written word in America, generalizing, obviously. You know, we lived in New York for 3 years and there wasn't much generalizing there. In fact, New York City Book Library was one of the wonders of the world. It's just fantastic, such a beautiful building. And I could have 12 books at a time from New York Central Library.
Oh, we left the speaker temporarily. Ray has dropped out again. I think this is one of those moments where you would say, please speak quietly amongst yourselves. we can wait for more comments from Ray. But has anybody else got something they want to say?
He's probably kind of coming in and out.
Well, let's give Ray a chance to find his way back.
Mm.
At least to thank him and say
He
goodbye.
gave me a wonderful picture of, I mean, it's many years since I've been to the bookshop I believe he works in. And I've had a mobility problem, but without going there, it gave you a wonderful picture. And also this true expert, I would say, in the written word, you know, with able to put his hands on probably any writer, any title in the place. And well, which is how bookshops used to be. You know, it seemed to me growing up, if I went to a bookshop, I could ask, well, stupid questions, and they would be able to tell me. At least I know now there's somewhere in Bristol where this is still the case. But I don't think it's usual. So.
I got an American bookstore story, which is I went into a lovely bookshop in a town called Los Gatos, and I was after a very specific book that had been written by a friend of mine, Pete Russell, called The Awakening Earth. And I asked this lady, have you got a book called The Awakening Earth? And I didn't mention the author. And she said, no, but I've got The Global Brain. And I sort of laughed a little bit. And I said, no, it's a specific book I've got. I want The Awakening Earth. And she said, I've got The Global Brain. Let me get it for you. And I sort of tried to stop her. And she went off and she came back with this book called The Global Brain by Peter Russell. And it turned out to be what The Awakening Earth had been published as in the United States. And neither she nor I knew this, but she'd somehow tuned into what my mind was doing and found the exact book. So miracles happen. Wonderful things happen around books.
I don't go in many new bookshops, but one of the things that really annoys me is when you ask, where would I find such and such, and they look it up on the computer, rather than saying, on the shelves over there or whatever. Anyway, our hero is back.
Sorry about that. I feel I'm being censored sometimes by my own machine. You can't say things like that. We will cut you off. Type of thing. And what were you saying there, Christopher? If I may be so bold.
I was saying, people have been sharing, visits to bookshops and people finding things. I said one of the things that, really annoys me. Well, it's Waterstones mainly that's happened in. Go up to the counter and say, have you got such and such? And they look up on the computer, rather than
go across to that.
Yes, it should be over there, sir, or whatever.
There's that custom. One of the things I didn't put in was that something like that. The customer coming up and with a book, and he said, "This hasn't got a barcode on it." And my colleague who told me about it said, no, that's published in 1960. They didn't, barcodes didn't come into a bit later, and so he said, "Well, how can I look it up on my phone to see where I can get it the cheapest?" It does, things like that, as you say, things like that can be a bit of a pain. But as I say, it's my enduring joy to have actually books, kind of paper books, which I can hold in my hand and read, that I don't have to have a Kindle or or any of its other. And I would say any of his other bastard children to use. But then again, maybe I'm a Luddite.
I've got a Bristol Waterstones story, which most of you will recognize. Maybe people who tune in later won't. And I was going to sort of tell this story to someone. I said, I was going to Broadmead, and I decided I'd take the shortcut. And they went, "Through Waterstones, it's not a shortcut."
Quite.
They understood exactly what I meant before I said. Yeah. And the story was, I as I was in there, I thought, I'm not going to buy a book. I'm not going to buy a book. And then I thought, if I do see a book that I fancy, it's got to be less than £10, right? And then I saw this, which I picked up, and it was Sapiens, which I hadn't come across, by Yuval Noah Harari, right? Yeah. And of course, it was £9.99, right? But it had second book half price, right? Further dilemma, right? And I went round and I found another book that was black, right? And I picked it.
It's the other one, isn't it?
Well, this is it. I picked it up without really looking at it very carefully. And when I got to the till, I realized they were both by the same author.
Yeah.
And I read them both. They're both wonderful books. And it was, it was a wonderful piece of not shortcutting.
Yes, I don't go in Waterstones for that reason a lot of the time. You recognise the book, Angela?
Well, I think I'm very lucky, because when I walk down the Gloucester Road, there's the Gloucester Road bookshop, and there's also, that's new books, but there's also the Amnesty bookshop, which is a joy. You can't go past that without at least being tempted.
Yeah. The Amnesty bookshop is like a warren. You walk in there, you go to road that way or that way, you go further back. It's as if it's kind of in some time warp somewhere.
You buy books you didn't even know you really desperately wanted to buy.
Oh, there's one which I was reading at breakfast, which I got from the Oxfam bookshop the other day, and one of my favourite authors. Know that.
Oh, Alan Bennett.
Yeah, and it's about his time in lockdown with his partner and all that lot. And I've read quite a bit of it at the moment, so it's rather good. I quite like it. Well, we have reached 12 o'clock.
Oh.
And well, personally, I have enjoyed this immensely. And I hope it's produced a titter or two, as Frankie Howard would say.
It's been really lovely. Thank you very much indeed, Ray. Thank you. Yeah, like that one.
Thank you.
Next week, are you going to?
Next week we have the start of a new month. And in the start of the new month, we have the inestimable David Saunders, who's going to resilient energy. Have I got that right, David?
Oh, I hope so. I was just thinking, my God, what am I talking about?
And
But it's very, very, very topical.
that to Patsy.
If I had to choose a topic, I think I would choose that. So
I'm sorry, my
I look forward to finding out what I'm going to say.
laptop is so bad, the volume isn't very good. So what are you talking about? I heard the word resilience.
Resilient energy. Resilient energy.
Or resilient energy. Okay.
It's
Yep.
got resilient energy.
It's really about resilient communities.
And resilient communities.
So it's really about resilient communities.
Yeah, it's so quiet, this stupid thing at 100%.
Okay. Well, we'll hope that your audio is working well next week.
Mhm.
And I shall now go and speak to Virgin to see what they're playing at with my email,
Good luck.
thingy.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Plenty of my friends are pretty displeased with Virgin.
no.
No.
Well, thank you very much.
I unplugged mine.
Ecotricity me.
All right. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.